It is 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'm talking about Psycho Killer. Who's the real fucking psycho? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Slasher Talk Podcast. Good morning. I know it's probably not 4 a.m. for you right now, but it is currently 4 a.m. for me. And I have to tell you about the morning that I have already had. And yes, you heard that right. It is 4 a.m. I woke up at 2 a.m. this morning, a little bit thirsty. I went and used the bathroom. I crawled back into bed, and my brain would not shut the fuck up. I spiraled about some personal stuff that I won't get into on this podcast, but right below that, the next thing was my brain was like, yo, brother, tomorrow, well, technically, I guess today, because it was 2 a.m., you are supposed to have a podcast episode go out at 8 a.m. That is what you've been doing for weeks since you started this podcast. And guess what, motherfucker? You do not have a podcast episode recorded, edited, and going out. In fact, yesterday, you posted on Instagram that, hey, I'm not going to have time to do this, so we're just going to skip a week or whatever. Shut the fuck up. Like, I gave myself a little bit of grace, finally, and I felt good about that. Yesterday was a crazy day. Yesterday was the first round of reservations for South by Southwest. And when I tell you that was a panic and that was a stressful situation, you're logging in knowing full well that you're logging on to a website with more than likely thousands of other people at the same time. And there are only so many tickets up for grabs. This is your entire festival happening right now. If you do not get tickets, your festival is fucked. That's how I'm going into yesterday morning's ticket grab. And that website was up for maybe 30 seconds and it crashed. And the next 45 minutes was just an absolute shit show of hitting refresh and reserve on anything that was on my favorited list, just hoping that reservations were going through. I ended up getting 18 films. I'm happy. I got the main ones that I'm looking forward to, but it was stressful. And then my roommate, best friend Sean, he's entering into this short film competition or whatever. So I've been helping him rewrite a concept for a short film that he that he showed me that I had some critiques for, and we talked about it, and we were reworking some stuff. We're supposed to film that tonight. I don't know if that's happening still, because I saw that the actor might be too sick and he might not be coming. That is later on today, but I just felt so stressed and tired and not overwhelmed, but just hey, the week got away from me. The podcast isn't happening. I posted to just be kind of hey, you guys are looking forward to it. Maybe, I don't know, the podcast, I don't know how well it's doing or whatever, but that's a different conversation. But I know that there's people that look forward to it. Just FYI, it's not happening. This week was a little bit long. My brain would not accept that. So when I tell you that I take this ship seriously, I'm all in on this Slasher Talk content creation stuff as my full-time job. And when I tell you that this shit means something to me, even when I try to give myself a little bit of grace, my brain is nope. Think again, brother. we are getting up at 4 a.m. to record a podcast episode about Psycho Killer. You're going to record it, you're going to edit it, and you're probably going to get it out this afternoon, if not the latest Saturday morning at 8 a.m. So when you're listening to this, just know that I am psychotic. So there's that. So I already talked about South by Southwest for a little bit. That's coming up in a couple weeks. I'm not going to get too much into that because I think I want to do an entire podcast episode on the films that I have on my schedule. Just know, I will say, just know that your boy secured tickets to Hokum, Ready or Not 2, They Will Kill You, and what was the fourth one I was really looking forward to? Buddy. Secured in the bag. We're good to go. I told the group chat yesterday, I was like, if I do not get tickets to Hokum, you will not see me at South by Southwest because that will be my 13th reason. It is my most anticipated horror movie of the year. And if I did not get tickets to that yesterday, if I was going to miss Hokum at South by Southwest, that was it for me. That was it. So, but we live another day. So yesterday, Psycho Killer came out. And this was one of my most anticipated for the year. Because I just felt like on paper and per the trailer, this was so made for me personally. It looked like, it's like, a slasher type of thing. It looked like what a lot of people wanted Long Legs to be, like an actual pursuit of this serial killer from this like police officer or detective. But it looked like it was going to be a lot more like gritty and like show kills, and it just the entire build up to this movie. I was like, this has the big potential. I made it. I made a video about this. I even talked about it in the February releases episode. I'm pretty sure that I felt that Psycho Killer had the potential to be one of my favorite horror movies of the year, like make it into the top 10. That's how I was going into this movie earlier in the year. And then, the closer we got to the release, there wasn't a lot of like early screenings. There wasn't a lot of early reviews coming out. And I was started to like kind of temper my expectations a bit because I was like, I'm just seeing red flag after red flag after red flag. But there's always a chance that it's still going to hit. I then pulled up tickets yesterday, and there are typically Thursday preview screenings for movies that come out on Friday for sure, but they typically don't have screenings at 2 p.m. Those, like, that doesn't typically happen. At least in my, like, local theater, the early screen, like, the earliest I've ever really gone is, like, right around, like, 5. Well, when I saw that there was one for 2:10 p.m., I was like, uh-oh. So, I guess that's a little bit of preview on my thoughts of Psycho Killer, but I'm going to do a little, like, non-spoiler section, and then I'm also going to jump into some spoilers, because I feel like I need to talk specifics about this film. So just be aware, if you haven't seen Psycho Killer and you just want the non-spoiler review, I'm doing that, but I will let you know when we are diving into spoilers. Let's go. So if you don't know anything about Psycho Killer, let's kind of dig into some of the details. It is directed by Gavin Polone. This is his directorial debut. He's like worked as like producer and writer for other films, but Psycho Killer, this is his first director role. It stars Georgina Campbell. She plays Jane Archer. We've got James Preston Rogers. He plays the satanic slasher. I think James was an ex-wrestler, which makes sense because this dude's fucking jacked. And then we all know Malcolm McDowell. He is in this movie as well. He plays Mr. Pendleton. We'll kind of get into more of his thing later. If you don't know the basics of Psycho Killer, Georgina Campbell plays a police officer named Jane Archer, and she witnesses the murder of her husband during what seems to be a routine traffic stop. This serial killer that's kind of making a name for himself in the area is the one responsible, and she decides that she's going to investigate this man and hunt this man down so that he can no longer hurt or kill anybody else. That's the basics. I thought Psycho Killer started off really strong. The whole setup of this, the whole, like, the traffic stop and her seeing her husband get murdered, all that, I liked the setup for sure. But there is a moment in this film that I felt myself kind of sit back and go, "Oh no. Oh no." The vibes are shifting, and I don't know where we go from here. Hopefully it catches, yeah, hopefully it changes, but it didn't. Overall, I felt that Psycho Killer was very rushed. It was a very rushed film. It felt like so many events and moments within this film were just removed or cut. We didn't get to spend a lot of time with Officer Archer as she's like researching this killer, and I didn't feel that we spent a lot of time actually experiencing like the research and her hunting this man down and trying to find him. It just felt a lot of like she did a little bit of research here and then she was fed a ton of information, and she just happened to be at like the right hotel at the right time, or um it just, I never felt the chase. I've seen a lot of reviews of this, like, classic, like, cat and mouse kind of vibe, and, like, the basics are there. Yes, she is hunting him down, but, like, I never felt like this was a hard thing to accomplish, if that makes sense. So, it felt very, very rushed. I never felt like the stakes were super high, particularly, like, at the end of this film when, like, we are actually in the end game and, like, the stakes are supposed to be its absolute highest. The tension was non-existent. The acting within that scene, I just didn't feel any anxiousness or panic or anything. Everybody was just kind of felt like, "Oh, well, there's nothing we can do. That sucks." So, uh, that's not great for a serial killer horror thriller film, having like zero tension throughout, just not a good vibe. The kills I thought were very underwhelming. There is one kill that happens that was done practically that I was like, I kind of sat back, I was like, okay, this is kind of what I was expecting. I wanted some more of this. I won't spoil that. I'll get into that into the spoiler section. But one of the main kills, um, it wasn't done with practical special effects, and it was this one. It was, I normally like a one take shot, but it seemed very set up. I felt like you could feel the actors, like, hitting, like, just like, "I have to hit this mark and get ready for him to hit me with his axe," and the wounds and the blood was all CGI, and I'm like, "Why? Why? Why? Why?" I will never understand that. So that was upsetting. But the biggest thing for me, I can kinda somewhat see a world where I can overlook a lot of what I just said, but the killer, the satanic slasher, the psycho killer himself, his voice completely took me out of the film. I say this a lot to my best friend roommate, Sean, because he's working on being, he's practicing and doing a lot with like short films and wants to be a filmmaker. And he's always dabbling in like thriller and horror. We're always talking about this stuff, especially with me, doing horror content. And I've said to him several times when it comes to voices, like there's this there's this certain kind of voice that I personally feel that when people go, okay, you need to be a villain, you need to be creepy, you need to be this like demonic or like scary guy. There's a basic voice that people use, and it's just cheesy to me. It's just not good. You have to I'm not a voice actor by any stretch of the imagination, so I feel kinda like a jackass going through this, but hold on, coffee break. It's like I said, it's early in the morning. I need hold on. Ugh, I'm keeping that in. I don't care. Um, there's a voice. You need to craft it. Bill Skarsgård is a perfect example. Like the Pennywise voice, that's creepy and unsettling. Heath Ledger's Joker voice, creepy, unsettling. Um, Hannibal Lecter, like he doesn't have this, or like he's just creepy. The voice of the killer, I could not unhear Batman. It sounded like somebody trying to do a creepy version of the Batman voice, and I could not unhear it, and I could not take him seriously. As soon as he spoke, I was like, "Nope, I'm out." And I know that, like, that's probably not great of me to say, but I feel like that's a valid criticism as well. As soon as he spoke, I was like, A, didn't know that he was gonna speak. I think it's always a risk when you have killers like this talk, um, and for good reason, because this one spoke and I was like, "Nope, I don't take you seriously anymore." The dude's got a great mask, he's got a great build, he's jacked, his long hair, the look of him was super cool. I dig that. His trench coat, his boots, all that. Super menacing and, like, creepy looking at him, but this man spoke, and I said it in my TikTok video, but he's just like, I need some information," and I'm just like, I that's not exactly how it sounds, and my voice is fucked right now anyway, but brother, it just I couldn't get past the whole Batman vibe, so immediately just kinda took me out, so that was a big vibe killer for me personally, whatever. Moving past that, Georgina Campbell was I thought she was fine. I thought Georgina Campbell was the best actor in this film for sure. She was doing her absolute best to carry this film. I think she was by far the best actor, but she couldn't single-handedly save this film, which is unfortunate. Which brings me to the ending and just the overall vibes of the story. I said it was super rushed. It was also kind of confusing. There are certain elements within this film that I feel like I don't need things like spoon-fed or like blatantly explained, but it felt like there were some things within this film that needed a little bit more explanation. In case in point, I was already racking my brain after it got done, and as I was driving home, Gigi, Room for Scream, she texted me and she was like, "Yo, so that ending," and I was like, yeah, I know. I took it this way, but maybe it's if you're having those conversations, like, something's wrong. Um, so yeah, overall, non-spoiler review, just like Georgina Campbell, fine. There was a lot of there was a lot of good cinematography shots here and there, a lot of like beautiful shots. Um, there's a shot outside of a pharmacy that was super cool, like how it was lit and all that, super cool. So a couple good shots, but just very disappointing. I said it was my biggest disappointment of the year so far, and I had tempered my expectations walking into this yesterday. I started the year like just so stoked to see this. I had walked in yesterday with tempered expectations and still biggest disappointment of the year so far for me right now. I know we're only halfway through February at this point, so that's not saying a whole hell of a lot, but that's where I'm at with Psycho Killer. Now, before we get into the spoiler section of Psycho Killer, now that you have heard my non-spoiler review, I want to tell you a little bit about the development of this film, and I think that what my non-spoiler review just went through, this is going to make a lot of sense. This project has been in development for years. The first draft, an early draft of this script appeared online in 2007. 2007. It's 2026, brother. Crazy. March 2009, Fred Durst announced that he was going to direct this film. Yes, Fred Durst, Limp Bizkit, Fred Durst. He announced that he was going to direct this film and that shooting was supposed to begin in August of 2009. Spoiler, that didn't happen. However, November 10th, or November 2010, Gavin Polone, who ended up actually directing this film, signed on. But Eli Roth was supposed to help produce this film, and shooting was supposed to begin in 2011. Guess what? Did not happen. So then fast forward 2015, there was another finance company that comes in, a new producer came in. Fast forward again in February of 2023. That's when like the final companies came in and the producers and all that, and like we see the film in 2026. But this thing started, the early draft was 2007, and it was director after director, producer after producer after producer, and years of just like in development. I've also read that there were a lot of like cuts of this film. So it makes sense to me that a lot of, like, chunks seem to be missing. It feels like a longer film was filmed, and because of, studio involvement of producers or whatever, just, like, things needed to be cut down and shorter, or, like, the trust in this film, the belief in this film was just non-existent, and they just needed to cut it down to a short. I don't know. It just feels so choppy, and it feels like a film that was just in development hell for years. So that's why I wanted to bring this up, because I thought that was very interesting. So there's a little bit of development hell for Psycho Killer. So if you have not seen Psycho Killer and you want to, and you don't want to be spoiled, here's your spoiler section warning for Psycho Killer. Let's start off with the traffic stop in the beginning of the film. Although I do like the setup here, it's really weird to me. Jane's husband, he was a highway patrol officer as well. And the satanic slasher is in this, like, Mustang, I think it was, and he's driving, not speeding. It didn't seem like, I mean, at least in, like, how they portrayed him driving down the road, it didn't come off to me that he was speeding. So the Jane's husband pulls out behind the Mustang and just starts following him for seemingly no apparent reason whatsoever. There's a little bit of dialogue when Jane comes in that there was a supposed, possibly, like, stolen vehicle. Her husband and her, when she comes into the traffic stop, they have a conversation, and he just mentions of, like, oh, I'm probably gonna bring this guy in for drugs in the next, like, 4 minutes, so I'm probably gonna be late at home or whatever, right? But he never turns his lights on to actually, like, pull this guy over. The killer looks up and sees that a police officer is following him, and he just pulls over to the side of the road. And the police officer, he, like, pulls off to the side of the road, comes up and goes, "Hey, what seems to be the problem? You just pulled over." I don't know, it just felt very weird to me. Um, it didn't feel very natural. I see people pull over on the side of the road all of the time, and cops don't pull over and say, "Hey, what's the issue?" Um, I just feel like it could have been very easily a, like, "Hey, he's going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. I had to turn on my lights, and I need to pull him over." Like, that just felt, like, more natural to me. So although I like the setup of Jane seeing her husband get shot, and it was a very emotional moment to set up the events that take place. The initial setup of that event happening felt kind of weird and unnatural to me personally. The scene that I talked about earlier, where I was like, okay, so I kind of I like the intro, and then a scene happens where I was like, oh no. Oh no, here we go. It involves a semi truck scene. Yeah, it's semi trucks. It involves a semi truck. So our killer is just driving on the road, and he sees this car pulled over to the side of the road, and this guy's changing a tire. And he decides, I'm gonna kill him. So he knifes him. The girlfriend it comes out of the car and starts running down the interstate highway or whatever, running from our killer. And she's running, and this semi truck coming, starts barreling down the road with its headlights on, and she's waving, "Stop, help me," blah, blah, blah. And this semi truck driver like slams on his brakes and he runs her over. I don't remember seeing it actually hitting her. If so, it was really quick, but like all of a sudden there's like blood on the front of the semi truck, and then the semi truck like falls over and slides on the interstate, and the killers look at it, and then it blows up. And I was just like, okay. Okay. The entire vibe of that scene, I was like, I don't like this. That was my first, like, I don't know if I'm gonna vibe with the tone of this film. And it was pretty much downhill from there, minus this next scene. The priest kill. This was my favorite kill in the entire film. And it's the one kill that I can think of that I don't really this is how, like, memorable this movie was. I just talked about the scene where, like, he kills this guy on the side of the road. I don't remember if that was, like, on it might have been on screen, but it was just, like, a basic kill. This is the kill that really sticks out into my head about being, like, the most memorable kill. It was also done with practical special effects. As far as I know, there might be some CGI in there because the next scene was full of it. But the satanic killer, like, walks into this church and walks into a confession booth. And, like, the priest, I don't know if it's a priest. If I'm wrong on that, I'm sorry. I'm not religious whatsoever, but, like, walks into the confessional booth, and they're doing the whole, like, confession thing, or he's, like, talking to the priest through the thing, and he had sharpened this, like, metal pole in the hotel room, like, the night before or something, and ends up shoving it through the, like, metal, thing that they speak through that you can kinda see through, sticks it through there, goes up through the priest's neck, and he's bleeding like crazy, and this motherfucker takes the mouthpiece off of his mask and starts drinking his blood. I was like, Okay." Like, this seemed more up the, like, this is what this movie was going to be. I thought it was gonna be more like a lot of, like, brutal kills, um, really, like, lean into, like, the psycho aspect, um, because when it's, like, the writer of Seven, I forgot to mention that earlier in, like, the lead-in into this. Again, it's now fucking, like, 4:45 in the morning, so leaning into, like, I feel like with it being, like, the writer of Seven, I didn't expect Seven per se, but I figured it would lean more into these, like, diabolic kills at the very least, and in my opinion, this was, like, the only one that we got. So I did like the priest kill. I thought that that was pretty good. Um, the next scene takes place, at this, like, the whole thing is like this, like, say like, this, like, satanic group, and this is where, like, Malcolm McDowell comes into play. He plays, like, the head satanic leader guy, and there's this, like, orgy happening, and the satanic slasher goes in and starts killing these guys that are involved in this orgy, which like I said in my non-spoiler review section, I believe it was a one take. Most of it was a one take, but it felt very staged. It didn't feel natural. Like, this woman is giving this guy head to start. Like, the satanic slasher goes up behind this woman that's giving this guy head and, like, hits her with an axe. That felt natural. But then, like, the guy, you know, is like, "Oh, shit. This guy just axed the woman that's giving me head," and then it was like he ran to, like, his mark and, like, got set up to get axed. It felt staged, if that makes sense, and then, like, all the axe wounds and blood was CGI, and I'm like, "What are we doing here, man?" Um, I just for a movie like this, I feel like that should be done practically, and I don't make movies. I don't know how much that costs or whatever, but I feel like that's nothing over the top. Like, if you're making a horror serial killer film, like, have your axe stuff be practical. I don't know. Is that weird? Like, is that just, like, the vibe? Now, that's why I liked Primate so much. I'm harping about Primate again, yes. I just made a video about it this week on my TikTok, and people are like, "Oh, well, the movie was dumb and basic." Even so, I never said it was a groundbreaking film, but, like, the fact that that team spent the effort to, like, do Ben in a practical format, and I think, yes, there was some CGI included in the jaw-ripping scene, but I think the base of that was practical. If you go into horror, I don't know why you're doing your blood in CGI. Make some blood. I don't know. Is that too much to ask? Am I being a jack? Am I being a prick? I expect my blood to at least be practical. I don't know. That just really bothered me. Um, and then, hold on, coffee break. Some additional things that bothered me spoiler-wise. The movie, with it feeling rushed. There was a scene, this is an example. I will use this as a prime example. There is a scene when uh, Officer Archer, she's like checking these hotels, be aware of this guy, he's going to come in alone, probably paying cash, whatever, and ends up finding out that this like solo guy named Reeves, whatever, actually did sign into the hotel, like, later, earlier that night or whatever. So she's like, "I need the key, I'm gonna go in," and she goes into his room, and he's actually there, and there's a fight that happens, and, you know, gunshots go off, and they have a struggle, and the slasher throws her through the motel window, right? She's working by herself. She's on leave. Like, she's not a part of of like an official investigation, whatever. But she had like told the motel guy to like call the cops. And she went in to do that. And there's the scuffle that happens. She gets thrown through the window. Literally, you see her go through the window. Next scene is the slasher with his suitcase and his trench coat and all that. He throws it out the back window, gets in his car, drives away. You hear sirens happening. Cool. What feels natural to you? Next, you feel like, okay, the police are going to show up. They're maybe going to like help her up, have a conversation. She's going to be like, what took you guys so long? He was here. We're on his trail, whatever. Nope, that's not it. The next time we see Georgina Campbell she is in a library reading some books, doing some more research. And just the jump there, I was like, there was no conversation with the police. She didn't get drilled by the FBI because they told her to pretty much like stay out of it. They have this situation. Like, she didn't get reprimanded. She didn't have it. Like, there was nothing. It was, I'm here. I found him, called the police, scuffle, window. She's moving on. What? It just felt like this massive chunk of the story just got cut out. And you're just like, here's this big thing. We're moving on. And it just felt so weird to me. Extremely rushed. Maybe that doesn't make sense in terms of like me like telling you about it through a podcast, but watching it it was just so jarring. It was just like, wait, we just moved past all of this and we're just okay. Sounds good. The ending of this film, like I said in my non-spoiler section, this is the end game. This is what you've been building towards. You finally find out what this guy's plan was the entire time, and we are in it. He's in this nuclear plant, and he's going to set this thing and open the gates to hell, and he's going to set this thing off, whatever. He's like locked himself in the control room, and he has like bombs strapped to his waist, and he's gonna blow himself up as like this igniter and all this kind of shit. Everybody, the security, the police, everybody that works at this nuclear plant is in this other room watching it through like a security camera, and they're just like, yeah, so there's just no way into that room, and there's nothing that we can do to override this, so like, I guess this is it. Okay? I felt there was no anxiety, no panic. Like, you guys are just gonna watch this security camera as this guy blows up like, you're just I understand that, like, if there's nothing that you can do, like, you're probably just dead. I understand that, but, like, the acting and, like, the line delivery and things, from a lot of these, like, random characters that were in this scene was just kinda like, at one point, I'm pretty sure like this guy was like, "Oh my god. Oh no." Brother, have some panic. I don't know. The entire that's it. This scene, there was 2 guys, it was me and 2 other guys in my showing, and this scene, when they're, like, trying to figure out how to get into that room or not trying to figure out how to get into the room because they were just kinda like, "Oh, well, he locked the door, so that's it." The guy he started laughing, and I was like, "Dude, yeah, this is not good." You're in the end game, you're in your climax, you're like, the stakes are supposed to feel so high, and I was like, "Well, can't wait to see this blow up because clearly no one gives a fuck." It was so anticlimactic. But I will say the very end, Georgina Campbell's, Officer Archer, she goes and shoots through this bulletproof like glass enough where there's like this hole where she can like stick her rifle in, and she shoots him and um prevents the thing from exploding, whatever. Throughout the entire film, we've been hearing about this like notorious killer from years ago in this like big event. I can't exactly remember. It's like the 3 Mile incident, I think it was. If that's right, hell yeah. But I think that's what it was. And like this big incident, and oh well, we see some like correlation between this guy and what's happening now, but the original serial killer, he wasn't necessarily a serial killer. He was like a mass killer. That's not the correct term, but like serial killer, he's picking off individuals in a row in chunks. This guy was like, I'm taking as many people out in one event that I can. I'm not saying that correctly, but I hope that makes sense. So they're like, yeah, we see some correlation, but they're two completely different people. The reveal at the end is it was him. And that was the conversation that I had with Gigi, was she was like, hey, am I dumb, or was it actually this Reeves guy the entire time, or is he just a copycat? And I took it as it was him the entire time. But I can't tell you how, because it was like, I'm pretty sure it was like this guy was in jail. Did he escape? What happened there? I don't know. If it was said, I missed it. And then at the end of the film, it was like, oh no, he's dead for sure. Blah, blah, blah. End of the film. He's in the back of the truck being taken to some prison in like Las Vegas, and like he's alive. Setting up for a sequel. I'm telling you what, right now, there is going to be no fucking sequel. If there is, they're not smart, because this was not good. I don't think this movie's going to do well enough for a sequel, but of course they had to set one up, and it just very confusing, makes no sense. It needed some sort of additional explanation, in my personal opinion. So there's a bit of spoilers and some like specific things, like one kill that I very much enjoy, but then like some very specific things that throughout the entire thing I was just like, I don't like this. That voice, man, that voice is a big one. That voice is a big one. Because I feel like for me, I love practical special effects, but like I can get over the use of CGI. Like, that's fine. Like, there are some things that I can look over, but that voice, for me, there might be some people out there that like it and it works for them. My personal taste, I just can't get past that voice, and all of a sudden, your main villain, who's supposed to be this intimidating, scary guy, he speaks, and I was like, that's Batman. Uh, that might be just a over critique on my part or whatever, but it just didn't vibe with me. So that was a lot of like the main things. But if you watched Psycho Killer and you enjoyed it, I'm jealous, because this was one of my most anticipated of the year. I'm sure it will find its audience. I already had a few people on Facebook and TikTok tell me that I'm crazy. They are shocked that I didn't like this film. Um, I've been told that um, I actually don't like horror or slashers. Um, I don't like anything. I always just like shit talk movies. I watch movies to hate them. I'm just like, brother, I didn't like Psycho Killer. Like, what do you want? I don't have to like it. Um, the way that I see it is like, it would be to me, the way I see this is like I'm proving to the audience that decides to follow my page. I go under the name Slasher Talk. I view and consume other things other than slashers, but like I obviously love this kind of film. So for me to come onto my channel and give an honest opinion that, hey, like, this should be up my fucking alley, and I didn't like it. I feel like, to me, like, you should take that as like, oh shit, like, I see why I follow this guy now. Like, he's not just gonna like, I could very easily come on to the page and go, oh yeah, any movie like this, 5 out of 5. Loved it. No, I go into these things, I want to like them, but maybe I'm in a spot of, like, I'm, like, over critiquing, and I should just, like, sit back and just, like, enjoy what is shown to me, but I just didn't get into it. And maybe I've just been in a mood this week because I feel like a lot of things that I've watched this week, I haven't vibed with. But I don't necessarily think that's a me thing. Um, it just happens sometimes. So I don't know. We'll see. Let me know in the comments if you saw Psycho Killer. If you have, let me know what you thought. If you loved it, I love that for you. Please tell me why. If you did not like it, do you agree with some of my critiques? Did you have more critiques? Would love to know that as well. Don't follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Please go follow me on there. That's where I post pretty much every single day of the week. Not YouTube, but the other ones for sure. Appreciate a 5-star rating that helps the podcast get out into the algorithm and get more people listening. I hope this episode wasn't too terrible. My throat's been a little weird. It's very early in the morning. I sound like I'm sick or whatever. So I hope this wasn't an absolute train wreck to listen to. I was just spiraling this morning that I wasn't going to have something out. So I wanted to get something out. So I hope it wasn't a complete waste of your time listening to this. I appreciate all your love, all your support. I will see you next week. Not see you, I mean the video watchers for sure, but we will have a conversation next week, one way or the other. Until then, remember, watch something spooky this week.